So, coming up in this video, Halloween Kills was terrible. There's no, we're gonna have to just say it. We're gonna have to be blunt about this. And we're gonna bring back cult versus current to talk about Halloween Kills and a few other Halloween movies that kind of interlock with this movie.
Yeah, definitely.
Let's get into it.
Should not have to keep running. Evil dies tonight.
And I've been waiting for this moment for all my life.
Right then, so Johann, you're back on the channel.
I know, right?
How you doing?
It feels weird. It's been how long since the last time we filmed in any capacity like this?
We did a lot of things like remotely, didn't we?
Yeah, but this is the first time I've been in a filming capacity in a room for like a year and a half.
Yes.
That's scary. Well, that's scarier than the movie we're discussing, basically.
So we haven't done cult versus current for a while because it's the kind of video that we need to do in person. We tried it remotely, it doesn't quite work. So we've brought it back now, we can film again.
Good.
And what better way to start than Halloween Kills?
Well, it should be called Halloween Nearly Kills a Franchise. That's what that movie should be called. But we'll talk about it. Let's do it an honest, fair discussion.
Let's start, because I think this might be a small segment. Let's actually start about talking about what we liked.
Sure, that's
about
all
Halloween.
we liked.
So it does what it says on the tin. It's called Halloween Kills. So the kills are probably the best bit about this movie, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, the light tube in the neck was pretty gross.
That was a lot of these deaths are gigantically gross. They are gorier, and it depends on how you think Michael Myers should be as a character. Do you think he should be like just genuinely unnerving and spooky, or is he like almost like a Jason Voorhees and wants to kill everyone? Which you have to kind of blame the sequels after that for doing it.
Yeah.
I think the kills are pretty cool. And especially everything involving the firefighters is by far the best series of deaths in the movie.
Basically, a lot of the stuff, the kills that you see in the trailer are amazing. This is like a hero shot more than a villain shot, isn't it?
It's so cool!
Enjoying this video? Show your support by hitting that thumbs up, subscribe and notification bell. The cinematography is good, and that makes the kills look great. A lot of like the cinematography in this movie is gorgeous. It looks fantastic. It looks like a big budget, expensive movie, doesn't it?
And it's just like, again, it almost has the same visual flair that the Halloween 2018 had.
Yeah.
Which is just got some nice setup, some nice framing, genuinely good things with getting the right angles and movements, some really interesting POV shots, some very interesting angles. Really, really good stuff. So overall, we can definitely say it looks pretty, and the deaths are pretty. I'm gonna throw something as well. Another thing I liked, and maybe it's just me, I actually liked in terms of speaking of cinematography in particular, how it looks, I liked the weird flashback scenes to the 1978 sequence.
A lot of people do like them, but because I'm such a big fan of the original movie, to me that doesn't look like the original movie.
So you can tell it doesn't feel like it. Although I feel like they did a good job to try and recreate them, and those bits, or the early bits, that gave me a little bit like, oh, you want to add backstory to this? Oh yeah, okay. And it's a good way of doing it, even though they had like a faux Dr. Loomis with deep fakes.
Don't get me started, because we're on the positives.
Sorry. But honestly, I personally like the flashbacks.
But so we are still on positives from your point of view then.
I genuinely like the flashbacks. I think they look really good. They add just a little bit of that extra lore that I'm okay with. It's like they're not trying to humanize way too much of Michael Myers. He's still a monster. But the flashback sequence added a few little extra nuggets that I liked. Even if they are goofy in some capacity and all the policemen can't shoot to save their lives. But enough of that. I really like the flashbacks. I think they work.
And I liked, I'm not sure what you feel about these guys, but I liked Big John and Little John because they reminded me of characters from Hook or something like that.
Excuse me?
You lewd, crude, rude bag of pre-chewed food, dude.
They were like, if, like Peter Pan's grown up, if other Lost Boys grew up, they'd be like, and they are dressed a bit piratey, so that helps.
All right, okay. I love how you're just digging in a bit, because personally, out of all the side characters, they're the ones I liked the least.
Right.
And I think, to me, it's because, one, as a member of the LGBTQ community. They are a horrible stereotype of everything gay.
I had a fear that they were like basically gay characters written by straight people. Is it like that? Yes.
I kind of get the feeling of that.
Right.
On top of that as well is that they're also like the stereotyping is even more so. It's like the example like, oh, we're extra sophisticated. Oh, we renovate houses. Oh, we do fancy things, and it's just making them feel even more alienating than anything else. And then when they actually interact with Michael later on in the movie, it's really bizarre. Like, say, oh, you finally come home, Michael.
Yeah, well, I get the only thing I could get from that was the fact that they must have like had some kind of interest or intrigue in Michael Myers. Yeah. Otherwise, they wouldn't have bought the house because they know the history of it.
Yeah, they know the history of it in a very bizarre sequence where they nearly terrify a bunch of trick-or-treaters.
You stabbed your sister in the tits.
What a line! I'm not gonna lie, I saw that and I laughed out loud because like, out of all the bits you would have said, you just stabbed someone in the tit. But, I mean, they're not the worst characters, but I really didn't like them because I felt like they're just there as a plot device to introduce the house.
Okay.
And I also feel like if you're gonna actually do that, could you make the characters maybe a bit more human rather than just like a caricature of what they're supposed to be? In fact, nearly everyone's a cartoon in this movie, but that one stood out even more to me.
So, I've said who characters I liked, so what characters do you like?
What characters I like?
Yeah.
Okay, Michael Hall's character, he's fucking best.
I mean, he killed Marion. He attacked me.
So beefy now, Michael.
He is the size of a brick house. That's the kid from Weird Science, right? How the hell?
I guess you guys moved out by now, though, huh?
And I've been waiting for this moment.
I like him as a character as a whole because he feels more like a character that would still have a grudge.
Yes.
Because he was, he was there at the time. He's still the kid that, all the things. And you're thinking like, he's another character I would assume would still have a grudge or still have a chip on his shoulder. And he would, after surviving that fateful night, feel like he has to man up a bit and be a bit more grr and so on.
His arc kind of makes sense, I guess, in terms of like his trauma. The whole town has got the same sort of trauma, which is a bit weird, but we'll get into that.
We'll get into that in a minute.
We've talked about things we like, so we've got to get into the nitty-gritty now. We've got to talk about the problems in the film.
Right. So,
the whole thing about resetting the timeline, at first, for the 2018 movie, it seemed like a good idea, because a lot of the stuff that happens in sequels you don't need.
Yeah.
But you kind of dig yourself into a little bit of a hole when you scrap the timeline, because the audience has this memory of Michael Myers, because they've seen all the other films.
Yes.
And they try and match that with the characters in the film. Like, they're feeling like the audience would feel, that they've seen all this stuff, they know all this stuff's happened with Michael Myers.
Yeah.
But if you think about it, Michael Myers killed 5 people in the original movie, but that's including the sister from '63. So that's like they wouldn't remember that.
Yeah.
So there's 4 people, right?
4 people and someone
in 1978.
Later. Yeah.
These people they're like, especially the people in the bar, like the mob people. They don't know what happened in the 2018 movie, really. They're stuck in the bar, they're not even knowing what's going on. So their memory is only of the killings in '78, like 4 people.
Yeah.
They're thinking he's like the worst serial killer ever in history.
Yeah, and this is the thing, you're right about something. This movie is trying to, get its cake and eat it. What it's trying to do is trying to say this is all a new timeline, right? But it's also referencing all the other movies in a weird way, or trying to make it feel like, look at all these legacy characters.
Yes.
And that is, and actually half the legacy characters other than Michael Hall's character, to me personally, has no reason to even be in it. They're just like side characters that no one remembers.
Well, yeah, if I give you a great example, the nurse in the bar that's about 80 years old, and
Who remembers that?
She is the nurse that accompanies Dr. Loomis when they go and pick up Michael.
Yes.
So Michael steals her car, basically. That's her connection.
That's it. It's like saying, oh, I remember the monster, she stole my car. Just, what?
I don't think she was even from Haddonfield.
No!
She was from, the area of Smith's Grove where they pick up Michael.
Yeah. And so this is the thing. you were talking about legacy. It's trying to rebuild a legacy, but only from the first movie. And then it has the gumption to try and reference the other sequels that they no longer technically are part of this timeline.
Yeah.
And it gets very messy. It's almost like saying, hey, it's almost doing what you're saying, like, hey, do you want to... People who like the previous, all the other sequels, we've got something for you, but it has nothing to do with them. But here's a hint.
I get the impression, because David Gordon Green is like a big Halloween fan in general, but they decided to scrap the sequels, but he still likes them. I think for fan service, he puts in little things to like, so the fans won't be disappointed. Like he'll put the Halloween 3 costume kids in there, and he'll put in sequences that look like Halloween 2 in the 2018 movie.
Yeah.
And he's referencing Halloween 4 in this because he's got a mob and things like that. So it's all kind of referencing the other sequels, but not, you know, it's doing his own thing. But it's kind of like, if you're going to put that fan service in, but then completely scrap it,
it makes no sense why the fan service would even be there, other than for people watching.
Yeah.
They don't make sense to the people in the universe, but it's doing it for our sake. And that to me feels cheap and very messy, which is what the whole movie kind of feels like to me.
Yeah, another side character I don't like, and it's a shame really, because he was a big part of the first movie, the sheriff. They put him as an old security, he's about 90 or something, he's a security guard in the hospital. And bless him, he can't really deliver lines like he used to. So it's like they've got him in there for fan service, because it's the original actor, but they wheel him on to do these like certain lines, and they're like, he killed my daughter in 1978.
Do we have to put up with this?
So I wish they weren't wheeled in Charlton Heston for him or something.
That one perfect day on Gordon Street.
Thank you.
A big problem with this movie is that there's way too many characters as a whole.
Yes.
And the problem is, and this is a question I want to ask you, who do you think is the protagonist of this movie?
There isn't. It's an ensemble piece, unfortunately.
And I think the problem is, this ensemble's way too big, and half the characters you don't care about. Like the doctor and the nurse character are literally there to be killed. This scene sums it up to me, because I hate the open mic night at the bar scene, which is quite literally almost like, for those who are unaware, let me tell you about all these legacy characters that no one barely remembers. That's the nurse, that's the thing, that's someone else, that's someone else. And I'm thinking, this is me literally being lectured for 15 minutes about almost like, do you know your Halloween fan fiction? Do you know your Halloween knowledge? Here is a quiz.
Yeah. So obviously that's for the new audience that doesn't know the old movies that well, isn't it?
But then the problem is, if it's a dime for new fans, why bring all the old characters in?
We have Miss Marion Chambers. She survived an assault.
Let's talk about how the characters talk.
Okay. Yeah, the dialogue's bad, isn't it?
Yeah, it's basically the original movie had like Dr. Loomis, and he talks like a Hammer horror villain, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
And like now and again, but the thing is, he doesn't talk like that all the time. There'll be certain segments where he'll say like a line, oh, you could slot that in a trailer, it sounds awesome.
Yeah.
In this movie, everyone for some reason decides to talk like Loomis, and it's not just in little like doses like Loomis did in the movie, it's all the time. Like they're all saying evil dies tonight, like all the time. Or 40 years ago, I saw the boogeyman and things like that.
Yeah, it feels like because there is no Dr. Loomis in this movie, because he would be well dead by this point anyway. They need people, but they love how Loomis spoke.
The blackest eyes, the devil's eyes.
In the 2018 Halloween one, there was the only person who sounded like Dr. Loomis was a psychiatrist, right?
Dr. Sartain or whatever his
Yeah,
name is,
and that's the point was, you only need one character to sound like Loomis. When the entire town, who, again, let's talk about their motives for a second, the entire town would not be this up in arms. with this. There'll be definitely a few side characters that might be into it, they might rally a few bits, but the movie halfway through just kind of swerves off into this weird mob mentality plotline. And everyone there, every single member of that mob sound like they've all been written for Dr. Loomis lines.
Is this some kind of joke? I've been trick-or-treated to death tonight.
You don't know what death is.
The thing is that when I first watched this movie, I wasn't sure about it, and I thought it was kind of like a bit crazy, and I was kind of like a bit overwhelmed by it.
Yeah.
But in my head, I was thinking, well, at least the Michael Myers stuff was good.
Yes.
And to a point, I'm still thinking that was the case. But now I've even had time to reflect. Even the parts of the Michael Myers stuff I don't like now. Like, I don't like how he fights. I don't like he's bloody like either Steven Seagal is like a master of Aikido and he can block everything.
It's hilarious.
Or he's like Batman in Arkham Asylum.
He's somehow learned some good-ass kung fu moves. He knows how to block. He also feels more supernatural now. Like, he just seems to appear in places, or he seems to be superhuman, because how many times has been stabbed in this movie? Or how many times has been should have killed the man by now?
Yes.
But he just gets up.
I mean, I've got nothing against the supernatural element, because that was introduced even in the first movie.
To a point, yeah.
And I like the fact that it's mysterious and you don't know why he can't be killed.
Yeah.
So I'm not against putting the whole boogeyman thing in there.
But you're right. If you compare it to Halloween 2018 and Halloween Kills, within the span of being hidden in that gun cupboard for like a couple of minutes, he suddenly learned kung fu.
In the other movies, people did attack him, but he didn't try and block him. They just kind of like hit him, and he just kind of stood there.
Which added to the maybe not the supernatural element, but gives him the thought, like, okay, so he is an incredibly strong person, right? But no, he goes whoosh, and then like, or he counter move, throw you through a window, counter move, stab you, counter move. He's pressing all the quick time events just right.
Yeah.
It's literally happening, and it's both. Honestly, some of it genuinely good, some of it hilarious, some of it really bizarre.
Let's talk about movies that it's referencing, like the most obvious movie it's referencing. So like Halloween 2. So she's really drugged up at this point. She doesn't really know where she is.
Well, wouldn't you? After that experience. Oh,
there he is.
There he is! Oh! That's right in the spine, by the way. Like a hook.
Look at that. Wedgie.
Death by Wedgie.
You don't know what death is.
What's the difference between the hospital in Halloween 2 and the hospital in Halloween Kills?
Well, to be frank, one, in Halloween 2, which you pointed out to me, which I never did, there's so less people in the hospital in Halloween 2. But also, Laurie Strode actually does something useful in Halloween 2. Because in Halloween Kills, she is sidelined for the majority of the movie, and then when she does do something, everyone in the staff is useless, and they say like, oh, I'm gonna do something, and then she's basically back there again. She is completely wasted in Halloween Kills, while in Halloween 2, she's doing shit.
Yeah, I mean, that is a very bizarre decision to put Laurie Strode in a hospital bed the entire movie, isn't it?
Yeah, so for 2/3 of the movie, she is inactive. While in Halloween 2, at least Laurie Strode's about doing something. She's being chased, she's actively being around, she's doing something, right? Yeah. And obviously, I generally like 2.
So this is like the sequence in the original movie where she's trying to bang on houses and stuff, like.
Yeah, and the other thing, this hospital, no one's in it. Like,
no. I like that though.
I get it, but also a hospital should be far more staffed than this.
But the thing is, you're forgetting Haddonfield is a very small town.
Very true.
There's hardly anyone in it, so. Which is why it's so odd in Halloween Kills, where it seems like a massive city. Like,
yeah, I get that.
It's got that iconic line, I shot him 6 times! I shot him in the heart, he's not a man!
I love that. I love it. His rant's fantastic in this movie.
Sam Hain is an evil spirit
It isn't goblins, ghosts, or witches. It's the unconscious mind.
I'd rather, and you're right, I'd rather have a very empty hospital than a hospital run by morons.
Yes.
So yeah, I think Halloween 2 kind of already does a better tick on hospital management.
Right, so let's compare it to Halloween 4 as well, because Halloween 4 is set 10 years after.
Yes.
And there's a bit more of a legacy because what happened in Halloween 2 and 1 is included in the continuity. Like, so 16 people have been killed now, because a lot of people killed in 2.
Yeah, a lot.
Michael!
There's Loomis! The best thing about this timeline.
He's here to kill that little girl and anybody who gets in his way.
The worst part about this movie is Michael's mask, but other than that, it's a very exciting sequel, I think. I really enjoy it. So it's like, already there's a bit more of like, oh, we've got to be afraid of Michael Myers. Like, it's a bit more realistic. But at the same time, you have got people in the town that are like, we're not going to take it anymore, and we're going to go after Michael Myers because the cops are not going to do anything. So that's similar, but it's quite a realistic situation because there's some very angry men with shotguns, right, in a truck, and they go after Michael Myers.
And they're like a handful of like 5, 6, 7. Now, personally, I think the mob could have been a bit bigger. But point being is like, it's at least a small handful. There's at least a realistic-ish number of people who would be mad about it, right? In Halloween Kills, the whole town's involved. Now, look, some people may have been somewhat aware of what was happening in the 2018 thing, but it's the night after, right?
Yes.
Unless it was, I mean, quite a few people died, not gonna lie, a lot of people died in that movie, but a lot of it feels like weirdly self-isolated or people just discovering them, right? So I don't know whether it would be this much of an angry mob, like mentally at that point. Well, yeah, like you say in Halloween 4, there's at least a legacy and saying, oh, we've heard he's back. He's back. He killed my wife. You know, let's go. It makes more sense that way.
Yes. Halloween 4 and 5 had Jamie Lloyd, and she was a great character. I love the parallels between her and young Michael, because she picked the clown costume like Michael has in the beginning. And I love all that connection. I picked this scene because if you notice anything, you notice that Michael had blonde hair.
Yeah, I remember that.
They forgot to they used the wrong mask on that scene.
Oh, they must have oh, look, or maybe, we ran out of mask.
That's the only bit where he's got blonde hair, but it's like, it's a very silly, even though it's got that flaw, I still don't care. I still love this movie. So Halloween 4's got the same sort of tension as the first movie, and it's got a similar kind of setup like that, whereas I don't think there's a lot of tension in Halloween Kills.
No, because you know why? It's because it loses a lot of momentum.
But there's so much tension in this one, which is good. Like, I think Halloween should be tense. It shouldn't be about, like, gore and stuff.
100%. This one's genuinely supposed to be unnerving. And it is. Mostly because of Dr. Loomis.
Where is he? He's lurking in the shadows.
Oh,
the school's like the Silent Hill school as well.
Yeah, it's generally creepy. I hate schools at night are creepy as balls.
It's so quiet. There he is. Just
creepy.
Standing there.
Just, ow, ow, every bone in my body is broken.
Okay then, so where do we go now? So I know we're kind of a bit drained now after seeing this movie, but Halloween Ends is coming.
Yes, it's apparently coming next year.
I suppose we've got to talk about what we want to happen in Halloween Kills and what we think will actually happen.
Okay. So, here's a weird thing. Do you know what the perfect ending to that franchise, this new franchise, would have been? It was the ending we actually got in Halloween 2018, which is the big confrontation between Laurie Strode and Michael Myers. They had the whole hunting in the house thing. It was almost a perfect ending. So they're gonna have to do this again somehow, but they have to do it bigger.
Yes.
But I don't know how you can make it bigger than a booby-trapped house. But I know that's gonna happen. Also, I kind of feel like we need to get away from the town.
But the trouble is, they've written themselves into a hole because they've scrapped the connection with, like, Michael's not interested in Laurie really, unless she gets in his way.
Yes.
But they've locked him to Haddonfield because apparently he's only interested in going back to his sister's bedroom and looking out the window. It's
creepy.
So and you do kind of get a sense of that in the original movie where he's kind of repeating things.
Yes.
So he's found Laurie, looks a bit like his sister. I'm going to repeat that same kill. So he likes repeating things. So he likes repeating the events of Haddonfield. So he's always in the way they've written it. He's always going to go back to Haddonfield and kill a bunch of people.
Okay, which is true. But the problem is then, like, I don't actually know how this is going to go. Because basically, it seems like if Michael's stuck on this rotation where he's just wanting to do some things and people just seem to get in his way, right? Then Laurie Strode, on purpose, needs to say, like, I'm getting in your fucking way. So in other words, is it going to be literally the hunter becomes the hunted kind of thing?
Yeah.
So the so not the bad guy, but the genuine serial killer is now more like Laurie Strode instead? Where she, not that she's going to go around murdering people, but she starts acting like it. Like she's popping around weird stuff, she's making things uncomfortable, she's making it weird, harder for him. She's stalking him. He's like, oh no! I don't know. But maybe like, woman, get out, stop getting in my way. Until they finally confront. But I don't know what else to do because they scrapped the family dynamic. They almost scrapped the whole generational thing as well. It feels like nearly everything's almost been wiped clean, but so many unanswered questions. So
yeah, I think you're right about, like, I think they have to. They're going to bring it back to like Laurie versus Michael, even though it seems forced now because he's not after. You have to flip it, like you say.
Yeah.
So I think. That's probably what they're going to do, but they might actually make Alison more of a feature because they've elevated her character in Kills, and they want her to be the new Laurie.
So maybe perhaps that's what it is. The idea is that, oh god, okay, all right, because if ends is literally when it ends, then Laurie Strode needs to go.
Yes.
She needs to get killed off. Right? She needs to get killed off in a big final battle confrontation, and then there's Alison finally coming in to do the final blow.
Maybe she will kill Michael in a way that sacrifices herself.
Possibly, or Michael actually gets one on her. She finally dies. Alison does the final blow.
Yeah, because the thing is, I've always thought about the whole Michael Myers thing, right? How does, if you're calling a movie Halloween Ends...
It has to end, right?
It has to end. Michael Myers really should end, but the only logical way he could die is by old age. So you'd have to skip forward a bit, so he's like really old. You'd have to make it so he's like 80 odd or something, not 60 odd.
Or the only other option could be, if you want to say Halloween properly ends, is he has to die in the most overdramatic way possible.
Yeah, I mean, you chop his head off, surely he can't grow another one.
You say that, but we don't know what happened here. I'm thinking explosion.
Yes.
Like he actually explodes. I don't know how.
Yeah.
He can't come back from that, right? Unless he is like the Terminator or some kind of magical ghost. There is no way he can come back from an explosion like that.
I mean, are they going to elevate the whole boogeyman thing even more? So say he dies in a way that like chops head off or explodes, and then he just kind of appears again, like manifestation.
No!
Like he's still, like the house blows up, right? Yeah. And he's still, like the Punisher movie, he still comes out the house.
He comes out the house, I'm perfectly fine, motherfucker. It's like, what? How? Okay, right.
Right, so guys, you've heard our thoughts.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts about what's going to happen in Halloween Ends? And also, let's also talk about this. And I want you guys to chime in the comments with this as well.
Yeah.
But after Halloween Ends, the franchise, if it's making the big bucks, is still going to continue. So you have to reboot it in some way completely. What would you change about like Halloween in order for it to work for a new generation? I think what you said earlier is great. You got to get Michael away from the town.
Yeah. He has to go.
Yeah, don't have that thing anymore where he has to go and repeat things in Haddonfield. Force him into situations, drag him across the country, right? And instead of like him going back to Haddonfield, the movie is about that journey, or like in between. So like say you're in another town and he's going back, but the whole movie he doesn't even get to Haddonfield. Like, do
you know what I generally think you've just described, and it just makes it, I'm not sure whether it's good or not. You've basically described Jason Goes to Manhattan. That's what you basically did. But this thing, let's just do with Michael Myers this time. It's something I can think of. The only way I think the franchise can go is, let's say they really like Allison as a character. Allison, they continue on the story through Allison's perspective, but Allison's traveling around. She's now become a bit more of a hard ass. Maybe at this point she's going to college and other bits as well. Blah blah blah, because that's happening. Yeah. Then it has to become, I think, it becomes almost a Scream situation, where you get someone doing a copycat, as it were, and stalking her for a bit, until it turns out that maybe it's some kind of weird sort of fanboy or whatever, and then it builds up from there. That's probably the next movie if they decide to go that weird route, which is maybe Halloween Reborn or something nonsense. Yeah. And then from there, that's where I think it will go, because then you've got your new lead protagonist, and you've got your new boogeyman, as it were, which could then lead into other boogeymen. Maybe the idea that it could be like Scream, where, you know, you've got Neve Campbell, wherever she goes, there is a ghost, there's a different ghost face, and it just becomes, why? Stop it. I know what the trouble is, maybe.
Okay, yeah, I mean, that is interesting. I think we've come up with some good points there.
Yeah.
And also, I've just pulled this off the top of my head now to include, Michael Myers never been in a crossover. Like, you've got Jason versus, like, Freddy. What would happen if you put Michael in a Scream movie? Would that work or not? Or
gold. That's gold. Let's fudge it. You know, you got Scream 5 coming out. Screams. Just call it Halloween Screams. That's what you call it. Halloween Screams. It's Michael Myers versus Ghostface.
What's your favorite scary movie?
Right, so I think that's about it, guys. I think we've discussed we've done everything we can to try and discuss, unwrap this movie.
Unwrap is right. I love it. I love it.
So, see you next time, guys.
Adios.
Right, thanks for watching, guys. If you've enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the like. If you want to see more from us, hit that subscribe. See you next time on Enigmatic Productions.